Harry and Meghan are obviously hugely threatened by this book and by Tom Bauer as an author. Instead of ignoring him and letting this book maybe ride into the sunset and die, they decide to respond. If you wanted to bury his book, you actually did the exact opposite. You actually promoted it, Harry and Meghan. That is what you were doing.
9 days before Tom Bauer's new book hits shelves, Harry and Meghan did something they have never done before. They responded publicly to his allegations, calling the veteran biographer deranged and accusing him of peddling conspiracy theories. The statement was extraordinary not because of what it said, but because it was made at all. For years, the Sussexes have let critical books pass without comment. Finding Freedom came and went. Endgame flatlined on arrival. Both were ignored, and both eventually faded from public conversation. So why break that pattern now? Why hand Tom Bauer the most valuable gift any author could receive? A direct response from his subjects that guarantees every outlet will cover his book. The answer reveals more about the Sussexes' current position than any excerpt ever could. The official statement reads like something written in the heat of anger rather than careful PR strategy. A spokesperson for the Duke and Duchess declared that Mr. Bauer's commentary has long crossed the line from criticism into fixation. They accused him of constructing ever more elaborate theories about people he does not know and has never met. The statement concluded with a dismissive flourish, suggesting that those interested in facts will look elsewhere, while those seeking deranged conspiracy and melodrama know exactly where to find him. This language tells a story all on its own. The word deranged was not chosen accidentally. It functions as a dog whistle to the Sussex Squad, that dedicated online cadre that has adopted the term derangers as their preferred insult for anyone who supports the royal family or criticizes their idols. Markle knows this vocabulary intimately. She monitors social media religiously, despite her claims of digital detachment, and she understands exactly what signals certain words send to certain audiences. The statement also carries Meghan's unmistakable fingerprints in its emotional register. The language is sensationalized, personally wounded, defensive in a way that corporate PR rarely allows itself to be. Compare this to how Kensington Palace handles criticism. William and Catherine have been the subject of countless unauthorized biographies, some flattering, many not. They have never issued a public statement attacking an author. The calculation is simple and elegant. When you respond, you raise. When you ignore, you diminish. By issuing this statement, Harry and Meghan have told the entire world that Tom Bauer is worth taking seriously. They have confirmed that something in his reporting threatens them deeply enough to abandon years of practiced silence. There is a reason the Sussexes have historically stayed quiet about unflattering books. Silence works. When Finding Freedom arrived in August of 2020, dripping with favorable details that could only have come from inside sources close to the couple, the public largely shrugged.
Tom's back with another Recollections May Vary book and set to be very explosive. Now, so far, we haven't really seen anything. This is just snippets that are coming out, but snippets that have literally set the furnace on fire over in Montecito.
The book was recognized for what it was, a sanctioned vanity project dressed up as journalism, and it faded quickly from conversation. When Omid Scobie released Endgame in late 2023, complete with its embarrassing errors and apparent editorial oversights, the Sussexes said nothing publicly. The book briefly made headlines for all the wrong reasons, then disappeared. Both titles demonstrated an important principle. Books about celebrities have a natural life cycle. Without fuel, they burn out. Without controversy, they become yesterday's news. The smart play is almost always to let the news cycle move on, to trust that the public's attention span is mercifully short. William and Catherine have internalized this lesson completely. They have been written about by everyone from royal correspondents to tabloid gossips to serious historians. They have never dignified unauthorized accounts with a response because they understand that a response is itself a story. It transforms a book release into a royal feud, a simple publication into a running narrative that journalists will follow for weeks. The PR rule is stark but reliable. You only respond when something genuinely threatens you. By breaking their own established precedent, Harry and Meghan have signaled to the entire media ecosystem that Bauer is onto something major. They have basically pre-validated his reporting by treating it as dangerous enough to warrant an official rebuttal. For a couple who fancy themselves media savvy, this represents a catastrophic misjudgment. So what exactly has triggered this panic? The book, titled Betrayal, covers the period from roughly 2022 to the present. Years years that saw the couple stumble from one professional disaster to another, but the excerpts generating the most heat involve something far more personal. According to Bauer, Queen Camilla allegedly told a friend that Meghan had brainwashed Prince Harry. The claim reportedly reflects concerns within the royal family about how rapidly Harry's worldview and relationships changed after his marriage. The book also describes an alleged confrontation between Meghan and Prince William shortly after the Sussex wedding, during which Markle reportedly told the future king to take his finger out of her face. There are passages about Harry cutting off longtime friends, even changing his phone number to prevent old confidants from reaching him. Senior royals allegedly viewed Meghan as disruptive to the traditional structure of the monarchy. These claims are explosive precisely because they crystallize suspicions that observers have held for years. The brainwashing allegation in particular strikes at the heart of Harry's carefully constructed public identity. For the past several years, the Duke has positioned himself as the hero of his own story, the man who saw clearly when everyone around him was blind, the protector who extracted his family from danger and delivered them to safety. This narrative undergirds everything from his legal battles with British tabloids to his Netflix documentary to his memoir Spare. Harry needs to be understood as an independent thinker, a man who made difficult choices based on his own clear assessment of reality. The brainwashing claim inverts this entirely. It reframes Harry not as a visionary who escaped a broken system, but as a vulnerable man who was led away from everyone who loved him by a woman with her own agenda. The implications ripple outward from there. If Harry was brainwashed, then his lawsuits against newspapers look less like principled stands and more like orchestrated vendettas. His estrangement from William looks less like a tragic but necessary boundary and more like the isolation that controlling partners often engineer. His public attacks on his father look less like speaking truth to power and more like a son being manipulated into burning bridges with his family. Harry knows this, Meghan knows this, and both understand that Camilla allegedly making this assessment, even as a casual remark to a friend, validates what critics have been suggesting since the beginning.
That Camilla had said that she'd brainwashed Harry. She sort of brainwashed him, you know, but suddenly this is put up into this great level. And of course, a wonderful headline, great way to sell a book. Very quickly.
The Queen Consort is not some anonymous internet commenter. She has watched this situation unfold from inside the palace. Her alleged opinion carries weight that random speculation never could. The Invictus Games have long been Harry's most legitimate claim to meaningful work. He founded the event, championed its mission, and built genuine relationships with the veterans it serves. But Bauer's book reportedly details growing concerns about Meghan's presence at the Games. The pattern has become difficult to ignore. At past Invictus events, Markle has been photographed marching in front of athletes during processions, positioning herself at the center of moments meant to honor wounded warriors. She has worn her own merchandise rather than official Invictus gear, ensuring cameras capture her personal brand rather than the event's message. Headlines about her outfits and her presence have repeatedly overshadowed coverage of the veterans themselves. According to excerpts, sources connected to the Games have expressed frustration with this active. Some allegedly suggested that Meghan would not be welcome at future events. This represents a serious threat to one of the few ventures that gives Harry legitimate standing in the world. Without his royal titles, without his family connections, the Invictus Games remain his most credible claim to doing work that matters. If that relationship deteriorates because of Meghan's behavior, Harry loses something he cannot easily replace. The symmetry with the center point collapse is unmistakable. In that situation too, Harry's defense of Meghan allegedly cost him a passion project. Dr. Sophie Chandoka's public criticism of the Sussexes, combined with internal dysfunction at the charity, led to Harry's departure from an organization he had championed for years. The Centerpoint story receives detailed treatment in Bauer's book, and the excerpts paint a picture of an organization that struggled under multiple pressures. Dr. Sophie Chandoka emerged as a particularly vocal critic, taking to social media to express concerns about Harry and Meghan's involvement. The timing of her criticism, coming in the wake of controversial public appearances, suggested genuine frustration from within the charitable sector. Harry reportedly chose to defend Meghan rather than address the underlying concerns, a decision that contributed to his eventual separation from the organization. This represents a pattern that Bauer traces throughout the Sussex story. Again and again, Harry's loyalty to Meghan has cost him relationships in institutions that predated their marriage. Old friendships have evaporated, family bonds have shattered, professional partnerships have dissolved. The book allegedly documents source after source describing the same active, a prince who chose one relationship over every other connection in his life. One of the most fascinating revelations in Bauer's reporting concerns Meghan's true royal inspiration. Popular narrative has long suggested that Markle saw herself as Diana's successor, a beautiful American who would modernize the monarchy and champion causes close to her heart. Harry himself has reportedly encouraged this comparison, apparently asking friends and colleagues whether they could see the resemblance between his wife and his late mother. But according to Bauer's sources, the woman Meghan actually studied most carefully was Wallace Simpson. The parallels are striking when examined closely. Both were American divorcees who captured princes. Both were approximately the same age when they met their royal partners. Both disrupted the monarchy in ways that created lasting ripples through the institution. Simpson's story offered a more useful template than Diana's in at least one respect. She demonstrated that it was possible to take a prince away from his family entirely, to build a separate life on a different continent, funded by royal connections, but free from royal obligations. The maroon Rolls-Royce that carried Meghan to her wedding was not a random choice. It was the same vehicle that had brought Wallace Simpson back to Buckingham Palace after decades of exile following the death of the Duke of Windsor. According to Bauer, this request raised eyebrows behind palace walls. Why would a bride select a car so specifically associated with the monarchy's most notorious crisis? The choice suggested either striking historical ignorance or deliberate provocation. Those who knew the significance found themselves wondering which interpretation was worse. But there was one area where Simpson's model failed to translate. Wallace Simpson never craved celebrity. She wanted wealth. She wanted power. She wanted access to interesting people and beautiful things. But she had no interest in fame for its own sake. Meghan Markle's entire career, from Deal or No Deal briefcase model, to Suits supporting player, to lifestyle blogger, to royal duchess, has been defined by an unquenchable thirst for the spotlight. This distinction may explain why the Sussex strategy has produced such different results than the Windsor playbook. The timing of this public response demands scrutiny. Why now? Why break years of silence over this particular book? The financial picture offers one explanation. Netflix has just canceled their documentary series, a development that reportedly stunned the Sussexes and their team. Speaking fees have reportedly declined as event planners grow wary of the controversy that follows the couple. The Australia tour looms on the horizon, their first major international engagement since a string of professional setbacks. Harry and Meghan need positive coverage desperately. Their entire livelihood depends on remaining connected to royalty, on maintaining their value as celebrities whose proximity to the throne makes them worth inviting to events and paying to appear at conferences. Without royal titles and without successful independent ventures, they have very little to sell. Bauer's book threatens to dominate the news cycle during a period when the Sussexes desperately need to control their narrative. Every excerpt, every headline, every commentary will remind the public of their failures and validate their critics. The Australia trip, which should provide opportunities for flattering photos and positive press, will instead be shadowed by daily revelations from a book they cannot stop and apparently cannot ignore. Their response reveals the depth of their desperation. A couple in a strong position would let Bauer's book pass without comment, secure in the knowledge that their success speaks louder than any critic. A couple in crisis lashes out, hoping to discredit the messenger before the message arrives. The public relations mechanics of this situation deserve careful examination. The choice of deranged as the headline word was not accidental. This terminology serves as a call to action for Sussex Squad loyalists who have adopted variations of this word as their preferred insult for royal supporters. By using it in an official statement, Meghan signals to her online defenders that Bauer should receive the same treatment as any other derangers in their vocabulary. The strategy depends on mobilizing social media attacks against the author, flooding comment sections with hostile responses, attempting to shape public perception through sheer volume of negative noise. It is not a sophisticated approach, but it is a familiar one. Meghan's relationship with social media is far more intimate than she publicly acknowledges. Multiple sources have noted her careful attention to online commentary, her awareness of what critics are saying, her responsiveness to public feedback in ways that suggest constant monitoring. One observer noted that after a live stream pointed out errors in website copy, those specific errors were corrected shortly afterward, suggesting someone was watching in real time. The claim of digital detachment, of being too enlightened to engage with the online world, does not survive contact with observable behavior. This matters because it illuminates the mentality behind the Bauer response. A person who genuinely did not care about critics would not issue a statement calling them deranged. A person who truly believed in rising above would simply rise above. The response itself reveals the obsession it claims to condemn. The statement concludes with what amounts to a threat. Lawyers will review the book. Every legal avenue will be explored. This language has appeared before in Sussex communications, always signaling fury and rarely followed by actual litigation. The reality is that Harry and Meghan almost certainly will not sue. They never do, despite occasional saber rattling. The reasons are practical rather than principled. Litigation requires discovery, the legal process by which both sides must share relevant documents and answer questions under oath. For a couple with as many apparent contradictions in their public statements as the Sussexes, discovery represents an existential threat. Tom Bauer's track record makes legal action even less attractive. The man has spent decades writing unauthorized biographies of powerful figures, from Richard Branson to Simon Cowell to Robert Maxwell. He has been threatened countless times. He has never been successfully sued for defamation. His research methods are meticulous, his sourcing careful, his assertions defensible. Any lawsuit would likely generate more negative coverage than the book itself, while potentially exposing Harry and Meghan to devastating cross-examination. The book will introduce claims that the Sussexes cannot refute without opening themselves to scrutiny they clearly wish to avoid. Every denial they make will generate another news cycle, another opportunity for commentators to examine their credibility, another chance for sources to come forward with additional information. The choice to respond publicly virtually guarantees that Betrayal will become a massive bestseller. Every outlet covering the Sussex statement has also covered the book's existence, its publication date, its central allegations. Journalists who might otherwise have given the book moderate coverage are now treating it as a major story because the subjects themselves have made it one. The Australia trip will unfold under the shadow of daily revelations, as newspapers serialize additional excerpts and commentators dissect each new claim. Harry and Meghan will be asked about Bauer's allegations at every turn, forced to either repeat their denials or maintain awkward silence while the questions keep coming. Their itinerary will be overshadowed by coverage of a book they helped promote. More sources will likely come forward now, emboldened by the Sussexes' obvious panic. When powerful people react with fury to criticism, it often encourages others who have been hesitant to speak. Former staff members, ex-friends, professional acquaintances, all may see the response and decide that their stories deserve telling too. The statement intended to discourage criticism has instead validated it. The Sussexes have basically told the world that Tom Bauer matters, that his reporting threatens them, that his claims are serious enough to warrant an unprecedented official rebuttal. They have handed him the best marketing campaign money could never buy. When every period of relative quiet ends with another interview, another leak, another revelation, a pattern emerges that becomes difficult to explain as coincidental. Private family conversations somehow become Netflix content. Personal moments transform into podcast episodes. Wedding details that should have remained forever private appear in authorized accounts, while claims of press intrusion provide the basis for multi-million-dollar lawsuits. The institution that sheltered and supported Harry for his entire life has become a content mine, and every excavation seems to cause fresh damage to the people still inside those walls. At what point does constant drama stop looking accidental and start looking like the product itself? The Bauer response fits this pattern perfectly. It generates headlines, it creates conflict, it ensures that Harry and Meghan remain at the center of conversation even when they have no new projects to promote, no accomplishments to celebrate, no legitimate news to share. Outrage sustains attention in a way that quiet competence never can. A couple releasing successful products and maintaining dignified silence would gradually fade from public consciousness. A couple engaged in perpetual warfare with critics, family members, and institutions remains forever newsworthy. Whether this represents deliberate strategy or simply the natural byproduct of certain personalities, the effect is the same. The monarchy continues to serve as raw material for Sussex content, and the extraction process shows no signs of stopping. Tom Bauer's new book arrives at a moment when Harry and Meghan can least afford another round of negative coverage. Their response has ensured they will receive exactly that. The question now is not whether Betrayal will damage their reputation, but how extensive that damage will prove. Sources will come forward. Excerpts will dominate headlines. Commentators will examine every claim against the couple's previous statements, and the contradictions will be difficult to explain. The Australia trip will be shadowed by revelations they cannot escape. Their panic is showing, and panic rarely leads to good decisions. What do you think about all this? Let me know in the comments, and make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss the next one.